Rise, Heal, and Grow. I'm Leah M. Hill. This show is a podcast production of Apollo Sunrise Center, which is a health, wellness, and spiritual retreat center in Merrimack, Massachusetts. On this show, we shine the light on those who nurture wellness and inspire positive change. My guest today is Lisa Braxton. She is an award-winning author and journalist whose work spans newspapers, television, radio, and now acclaimed books. Welcome, Lisa.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on the show today. I'm really excited to talk about your books, and I'm glad you brought them with you here today because we're gonna show them when we're talking about them. But I want to talk about your evolution as a writer, which I know started as a reader, as a very small child, which I think is fairly common, I think, for a lot of writers, that they're also very profound readers as well. Do you think?
Yes, oh yes, definitely.
So what was that like for you as you were growing up?
Well, I was very shy as a child, and I just loved reading. My mother would read to me every night, like a lot of mothers do and fathers do, read to me every night when I was a real young child, baby, basically. And my parents had a whole bookcase for me of books in my bedroom as I was becoming a toddler and older, and that was influencing me to read. So I would sometimes sit at the kitchen table with my mother after I started school. She's at the sink doing dishes, and I'm sitting there reading Black Beauty, for instance, was one of my favorites.
Wow.
And I really didn't understand the story too well. I knew it was about a horse. And I would keep bugging her about, what does this word mean, Mommy, what does that word mean? And she very patiently would explain every single word. And I was the only child until I was 6. So up until I was 6, it was just my mother and me at home. My mother was a housewife, my father was working in a factory. So my mother would get these phone calls from her other housewife friends, and I would just drop my toys and run to where she was and pull up my little child chair and listen to everything she said, and I would say, what does I doubt it mean? What does this mean? After she got off, I would try to remember all the words.
You were trying to just so really increase your vocabulary.
Fascinated by words.
Yeah.
And then I eventually graduated to Nancy Drew mysteries.
Oh, I love those.
And I love Nancy Drew mysteries. I think looking back on it now, because she was very empowered. She would find her own way to solve the crime. She would knock on the wall and she'd find the hidden passageway, and understanding through reading that a girl could actually do things and stand on her own, that really influenced me. So that's where it all began.
Right. Oh, I agree with you. That's what I loved about the Nancy Drew stories, was that it was a girl.
Yes,
it was a girl was the main character. And I think that those books had such an impact on so many young girls like us as well. And then as you were growing up, you got into high school and college, and now you started getting into more of like editing the newspapers there, right?
Yes, because my mother at the time, going back to when I was reading Nancy Drew, she kept saying, well, Lisa, you should go outside and get some fresh air, play with the other children. And I say, well, Mommy, when I grow up, I want to be an author. I want to be a novelist.
Really? You said that from that young age?
Yes, she would say, well, that's wonderful, Lisa, but you can't earn a living writing books.
Oh, that's what so many people believe. And as I got older in high school, I said, well, I can always go into journalism where I could get paid to write. Right. And then at some point, maybe I could actually write books. And that's what I did. In high school, I was on the school newspaper. College, I was editor-in-chief of my college newspaper. Wow. And I enjoyed it. It was like a fish in the water. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, and it sounds like, just being in your element of, like you said, the power of words, and using the power of words that you were so attracted to at such a young age, which is amazing that you were building up this vocabulary as such a young girl, and then was able to really put it into practice. And I totally understand what your mother said about authors not making money, because I'm sure that's what a lot of people think, that you just can't go out there, be an author, and then be successful, millionaire. It very rarely happens, but you have this path.
Yes.
And so in addition to that, so then after, with high school and college, you went into more newspapers and a professional level, so you were a professional journalist, is that right?
Yes, I majored in media, mass media in college, where I learned all about all kinds of media, including newspaper reporting. So I did newspaper reporting for 3 years, a newspaper in Richmond, Virginia, but I still was still interested in doing broadcasting and radio. I did radio for a year out of college, and then after that I did the newspaper work. And I decided to go to grad school and get a degree in broadcast journalism.
Wow.
So I went to Northwestern University. I guess I was more of a dilettante. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I enjoy doing all kinds of media. And I was in town television for about 10 years in small market stations in the Midwest mostly. Where was I? I was in Champaign, Illinois, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, Norwalk, Connecticut at the cable station, the station in Hartford, Connecticut. And then I said, I'm just really burned out from this. I think I'm done.
I imagine that was a lot. So you were reporting the news, or were you working on like specific stories?
I was a news anchor, and also I was doing stories.
You did both? Wow.
Yes. In small markets, they have you going out to do stories, and you're with the photographer, you're doing the reporting in the field, and then you're racing back to the station to get behind the desk like we are right now and deliver the story.
Right.
So there was a whole lot to it. I was glad I did that when I was younger. After a certain point, I said, I just really am ready to move on. And what I found was I was so focused on the reporting, and it took up so much energy that there was no time for doing anything creative. So my dream to become an author, I had to put it in the back burner because it was just too exhausting being a journalist.
Yeah. So how did you make that transition? I mean, you're going from journalism and television and radio, and still feeling that tug, within you that you wanted to do some more creative writing. How did you? Was there something that prompted that big leap?
There was a situation with one of my mother's uncle, who he lived alone, and he was in his 60s, and one day his best friend called my mother and said, well, I can't find Wilbert. And she said, well, you just keep looking for him, and maybe he's at the pool hall or wherever he is. And 2 days later, this friend called my mother back and said, you know what? He's in his house. I looked in the window and he's dead.
Oh, wow.
So my uncle had passed away in his house.
Oh, wow.
And had been sitting there, he was in the chair. His was gone. He was in a chair for several days. And I got this idea to write a story about that, a fictional story about that. Wow. And I wrote a fictional story about this man who had all these regrets in his life. And he has a heart condition like my uncle did. And he sits down in the chair, and then he passes away. And after sending it out to maybe 30 or 40 literary publications,
which is pretty common.
Picked it up. A Georgia publication said, it's great, we'd love to publish this. And I said, oh, okay, fine, go ahead. And at that point I said, maybe I do have a talent for writing creatively.
Yeah.
And after that I wrote more and more. And then my TV career phased out. I had more time and energy to write creatively. And then I was writing more short stories, getting more things published. Then I said, well, I would love to write. Well, my father was saying, well, Lisa, you can write a novel if you wanted to. And I said, my father's crazy. I can't write a whole novel. I can write like 5 or 6 pages of a piece, but not a whole novel. But after a while, I did say, let me try this. But I didn't have the discipline for it. Okay. So I went to grad school again to learn how to write a novel.
Right. So you went to an MFA program at SNHU, is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that helped you with this transition, it sounds like, where you were like, okay, I can do a lot of writing, I could do a lot of fast writing, but writing creatively is a transition. That's different. It's like, I don't know if it's using a different part of your brain or something, but it's a very different process. And then I can understand totally how the thought of writing a novel would just be a little overwhelming. It would be like, okay, I'm used to this kind, fast and furious probably, and focusing on what needs to get done and what gets out there, to actually allowing yourself to evolve this story that you started with that was inspired by your uncle, and then put it all together.
When we first got to campus, after I was accepted, our professor, the nice thing about the program is that all of the professors in that MFA program are published novelists or nonfiction book writers. And they said one of the biggest keys to getting your work done is to spend at least 40 hours a week sitting in the chair working on your novel.
Really? Oh, wow.
They said if you need to cut something out, if it's television or something else, you have to cut that out and work on your novel. So we had to hand in something like 40 pages every couple of weeks to our mentor professor. And we kept doing that for 2 years. handing in more pages and outlining the novel, outlining the biography of each character, all kinds of things to make all the craft elements come together to create a novel. And if it had not been for that, I would not have been able to do it. To graduate, you have to have a finished manuscript. So I was determined to graduate after spending my money to go back to school for another degree. So I kept working on it. After graduation, I thought that I was being naive. I thought that it was ready to go. This my book, The Talking Drum. I thought it was ready to go, and I spent 10 years revising it because literary agents would say, they didn't like it, or they wouldn't respond, or it's kind of boring in this part or that part. So I worked on it and revised and revised and revised all those years. And then I also figured out that not everyone has a literary agent or can get one. You can also go to a small press. And that's what I did for The Talking Drum. I talked to a lot of small presses, and a Canadian feminist press was interested. And as it turns out, this particular Inanna Publications, they they champion the work of women, because a lot of women don't get their words out there and get published. So they're the voice for women who have something to say and have not been able to get published.
That's wonderful. Wow. And I had a similar experience too when I wrote a novel like 10 years ago, and I had an agent, and it was kind of the same thing. It was like a long process, frustrating. People would say, oh, I like it, but I don't love it. I this and that, and then dealing with that feedback, was hard. And I was like, okay, what should I do? Should I spend, like you did, 10 years revising, editing, or just find a place to print it myself? So I think that's very fulfilling when you do that. And the reward for you came with the awards that you received on The Talking Drum.
And I had a small press that I didn't have it printed. They did all the editing, and they're a business. And they did work with me on this. And the nice thing is there are a lot of small presses out there. There are a lot of people who do get self-published. They do get self-published, but with this you have the backing of your publisher. And they have done promotion for me and marketing for me. So it has worked out well. Just know, if you're a writer, there is a happy medium. Besides going with one of the top publishers, which can be very difficult to get your foot in the door, you can also look at the small presses.
Thank you. I think a lot of people need to hear that, definitely. And then I also want to talk about so from that, you went on to a different theme, a different direction, and you wrote a memoir. Yes,
around the late 2018, 2019, both of my parents' health was failing. And my mother was in her early 80s, my father in his late 80s. And interestingly enough, my father had, in his 80s, Parkinson's and beginnings of dementia. And my mother would say to me, well, Lisa, I can't take care of your father. If he gets worse, we'll have to put him into a assisted living. But as it turns out, my mother had ovarian cancer. She didn't know it, and we didn't know it. And cancer can be so insidious that she felt fine, but it was happening. And actually, he lived 2 years longer than she did. So during the process of them aging and declining dramatically, I found that writing was cathartic. I was reminiscing about when I was younger, and Dad would help me balance on a bicycle and run next to me, and the fun things I would do with Mom. And I was writing those things down. And after a while, I said, and also I was reading grief memoirs by other people. And that was very helpful and cathartic, as well as I was grieving my parents. And I thought, well, I've got a lot here. Maybe other people might find it soothing to read my experience. So I contacted some small presses, and the first week I sent some samples out. Sea Crow Press in Cape Cod was interested. And she had me, the publisher said, well, you've got quite a bit here, but not enough for a book. Can you write more? So I wrote 50, 60 more pages of reminiscences and different styles of writing, poetry and crabtree essays, not crabtree, crab. It's something like that. These essays of different formats, and it was published in 2024, last year.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Wow, and it looks like you received a award on that one too.
I've received a couple of awards for this book.
Fantastic, and I love that. this is fascinating to me, this process that you go through, because I'm a big journaler. So I've been journaling since I was a child, and journaling about my life. So I'm journaling how my day was, what my feelings are, who I'm mad at today, those kinds of things that I was journaling. But then to be able to take that, this kind of raw emotions that have been in all these journals, and then to put it together in a memoir that is not only a chronological story of this is what happened, this is how it started, this is my life, and putting in, I'm sure, your emotions and how you were feeling throughout this process, but then also having the goal of being able to help someone else who's reading your book, that one of your readers might find some comfort, maybe some inspiration to think about their grief a little differently, or to celebrate the life of the person a little differently. I think that's amazing, is how you can take that and put that into that, because I think it's a very different story to go from, I'm just thinking my personal experience of journaling to actually give it some structure with a purpose.
What I like about this is that each story is short. Each essay is maybe 4 or 5, 6 pages. A person who's commuting into work could read a story, and then maybe before bedtime read a story.
Yeah.
But also, it's not a beginning, middle, and end where it's more circular. So I'm writing, it's a memoir, but it's a memoir in essays. So it focuses on different incidents that happened while they were aging, my parents were aging, but also when we were all younger.
Yeah.
Like when my hamster died. That was a big moment for me. I was in the 2nd grade. And my father actually, after he got home from work, we went out into the backyard and he got a shovel, and my mother got a shoebox. We put Hammy, the hamster, into the shoebox.
Hammy?
And Hammy, yes. And I'd never been to a funeral before, so as my father's putting the box in the ground, my mother says, well, do you want to say anything to Hammy? And I said, goodbye, Hammy. Because I didn't know what else to say.
Right, right. What else would you?
What kind of eulogy does a 7-year-old give to a hamster?
Yeah.
And this may sound very strange, but in the book, there is an essay to Hammy that I wrote, how sorry I was that he was our 1st grade hamster. But somebody needed to take the hamster during the summer and beyond. So I agreed to take the hamster and make it my hamster. But once we got Hammy to my house, Hammy didn't get onto the hamster wheel like he did with the kids.
Yeah.
He wouldn't drink water out of the water bottle like he did.
Right.
He would try to get out. He would escape. He would go into the behind our washer and dryer. So he wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And that even though it was a hamster, it always kind of bothered me. So in my book, I do talk to Hammy, and I say how sorry I am that if I'd known that you would have been happier with a family that was like a classroom of kids, I wouldn't have taken Hammy. I actually felt better.
Wow.
Once I wrote that.
Yeah.
And this was also to say there are different forms of grieving. My family, my parents, but also my hamster.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because I agree with you. I feel like, the way that we grieve is all different, right? And it doesn't mean we have to grieve at the time of the loss. I don't believe that. I believe that, sometimes it comes to you years later, like you said, like you're thinking about it and you're thinking about the impact that this pet had on your life. And I also think that's important for people to know, that it gives people freedom in their grief, that they don't have to feel like, oh, well, now I'm in the next stage and I have to go to the next stage of grief and the next stage of grief, that they can actually make it work for them in a lot of different ways. Wow. So looking at these awards that you received for both of your books, for The Talking Drum and Dancing Between the Raindrops, how does that make you feel? How did receiving these awards make you feel?
One good thing about the awards is that it's an endorsement. It's an endorsement that the people who do the awards feel that your work is it's valuable, that it means something. But also, every time I've gotten an award, there was a Zoom event attached to it where they have an author, like a keynote speaker, speak to us about how to market your book and how not to give up on what you're doing. The other day, I was on a call with Living Now Book Awards because I got an award. I got a Living Now Book Award for The Talking Drum also.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you. And the keynote speaker was saying to us, she was telling us about a woman who wrote a children's book, and it just took off like a firestorm. The right people found out about it, and it was made into a movie, and she's done so well. And the author was saying, yes, we all would like to have that happen, but that's very rare.
Right.
And so what our job is, we who have written books and maybe we won awards, but we're not getting that big contract from Hollywood, is to market and promote our books every day until the end of our lives. We just, whenever there's an opportunity to
really
sell books or do a speaking engagement or encourage someone else to write their book, we do that.
Yeah.
And we're like journeymen or journeywomen
Right.
in the trenches. And you don't think, and several people on the call who also won awards said, oh, I thought after the first year you stopped because no one would be interested. And she said, no, you keep promoting your book until the end of time, because people are being inspired by what you've written.
That is so true, and that's such a great story, because you know what you've done too is you've taken something so personal, even in the Talking Drum, you know, something that you were inspired by a very personal story and your personal memoir, and then made it public. And it's like, that can be overwhelming. Whereas, you know, your history was journalism, your background was journalism, so you were used to writing about everything else, right?
Yes.
And not about you yourself. So what was that like for you? Was that like scary to really put yourself out there?
Not really. The odd thing is, one of my best girlfriends, we were having coffee a few weeks ago, and she was talking about something in the book. She was talking about one of the anecdotes with my mother and my father, and I said, "Oh, that's in the book?" She said, and she laughed at me, saying, "You said that many times, Lisa, because you know it's cathartic.
Yes.
I'm writing it, and it's written. I go through the editing, the proofreading, and it's out there.
And then you let it go.
Yeah, I let it go.
Yeah.
And friends have reminded me, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that I put that one in there.
Yeah.
But you know, I think because you almost go into a trance when you're writing, and I'm thinking it's a gift. It's a gift to people. It's my story, but it's a gift to other people who want to read about my experience.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And now you also teach as well. You're with Grub Street in Boston. So can you just explain for people not familiar with Grub Street what that is?
It's a writing center. It's one of the top writing centers in the country. They do an annual conference where they bring in literary agents that you can talk to. They have all kinds of writing classes, writing about trauma, writing about children's books. You can learn how to write about, I've taught writing about grief, the 5-minute memoir, which is basically what my memoir became, all these 5-minute memoirs together. And one thing I like about Grub Street is they've grown over the years, and they also offer classes in neighborhoods. So they go out to neighborhoods
I didn't know that.
where people may not be able to come in
Yeah.
to the Seaport District of Boston for a class. They will go out and have these gatherings in communities. So that they're always changing and morphing into what needs to be done as eras go on to be out there for people who want to learn how to write. And we have a 3-hour workshops, 3-month workshops. We have all kinds of things that are offered. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good to know, because I was never really involved with Grub Street, but I took some of the classes. I went to the big conference years ago, and then I kept thinking that, you know, I'm up on the North Shore these days, but getting down there is a lot, you know, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot more traffic or whatever, you know, for whatever the reason. I haven't really been involved in it in years, but that's so good to know that they're actually reaching out to neighborhoods, because I think it's such an excellent organization, because what I experienced when I was involved in it in a very small way was that it was very welcoming for anybody, you know, for someone like, you know, me that was like new and dabbling at it, to someone like you who had been an experienced writer but not, you know, new to the creativity, and now you're teaching it, and it's like I just felt that it was a very welcoming organization.
And we're also online.
Oh, great.
So I've taught classes with people who are in Europe.
Oh, wow.
They're in Europe and they're online with us. They're women who've been on with us from India,
That's fantastic.
It's middle of the night there, but they're with us, and so we are global. We're actually global now.
Well, that's dedication for you, right?
Yes.
To be there
yes.
in the middle of the night. So, that's wonderful. And so you're also going to share your books and some of your story and your writing process at Voices of the Valley,
yes.
which is November 1st and 2nd at Apollo Sunrise Center in Merrimack, Massachusetts. This event is free and open to the public, so anybody can come. You just need to register ahead of time, and you can register at apollosunrise.com. But we're going to feature 24 authors, just like Lisa, who are going to come and talk about their writing process, using writing prompts, all kinds of activities and events. And you'll be able to buy the books if you wanted to check out Lisa's book and meet Lisa and actually get your book signed by Lisa. I just want to show them again your book. So this is The Talking Drum. This was Lisa's first book right here, which received a couple of awards and still sounds like still receiving some awards, and also Dancing Between the Raindrops, which is Lisa's memoir, her personal story of not only about the journey of grief, but also celebrating life, I think, too.
Yes.
So that's great. And so you can join us there November 1st and 2nd in Merrimack, Massachusetts. And just thinking about now the future, where you're going next, you're working on another novel?
Yes, I'm working on a historical novel, historical murder mystery taking place in the 1800s in Boston. Because I guess I'm just really hard-headed. I've done a novel, I've done a memoir, now I'm going to do a murder mystery. If I could just stay in one genre, it might be easier for me. But I just have to really test myself and just get out there and try something different.
That's fascinating. I love that you're really, giving yourself that opportunity to challenge yourself, push the envelope and try something different.
And to beat my head against the wall.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And deal with the frustration of it as well. So, and as you approach this new novel, are you doing the 40-hour week with the writing, or are you doing it?
I'm not doing that because I work full time.
Okay.
And when I was first working on The Talking Drum, I was single. And I'm married now, and I also have a dog, so, which she needs to be walked, and I have to spend time with her. She really wants me to.
Right.
So all those things are tugging at my attention. But I do commute into work, so I will say that for people who are looking for when do I find time to work on my writing, I'm commuting, so on that train going into Boston, out of Boston,
that's
I'm
when
writing.
You're doing your writing.
Or earlier when I'm hybrid, so when I'm not going into the office, I just an hour or so before the day really starts. Spend an hour or so.
Wow.
So, and that's why this novel is taking a long time to get done because of all these other things
But it's working, I mean, it's working. And that's the truth, is how many of us can spend 40 hours a week just on our book.
Right.
And, there are some famous authors who do that, right? They just get up in the morning and they write 8 hours a day and then they're done. And I could never do that. And I couldn't even force myself when I was writing the book. I had to just wait for the inspiration. I had to wait till I heard the characters in my head. I had to wait until I heard the next scene, saw the next scene or something. And so it took me a long time to write my book. But it is worth it. It is worth it because just by doing that little bit every day, on the train or in the morning before work, that you're keeping it alive.
Yes.
You're not just like putting it in a drawer somewhere and going, I'll finish it when I go on vacation or blah, 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 or a staycation and I don't have to do anything. It's like you're keeping it alive. You're keeping it yourself interested in it. So.
And I also found that with The Talking Drum, I had a business trip to South Africa at the time when I was working on it. And, let's say the flight was like 18 hours.
Oh, gosh.
So I had 18 hours of time to work on my manuscript.
And you did?
Yeah.
You did it? Oh, my gosh.
Even short plane rides now, I'll work on a manuscript.
Yeah.
So the plane, the train.
That's great.
Those things help.
See, absolutely. That's the way to get it done.
Yes.
To get it done. And then, of course, as they say, once you get it done, then you have to do the revision.
Right, right.
So
the revision.
Sort of like,
and then
when is it really done?
Find someone to publish it, and then the marketing of it to get people to buy it.
Yes.
So the whole thing is a whole big journey.
It really is.
Yes.
It really is. But it is worth it at the end when you get to see, and I always say when you can smell the ink. That's what I wanted to do with my book. I was like, when you can smell the ink on the pages, that's when it's really done, that you've done it. And it's really great. And so this is so fascinating. And I want to share just with everyone how people can learn more about you, find you, and get in touch with you.
Well, the easiest way would be to go to my website, lisabraxton.com. And let me see now. I'm on social media, on several sites.
Yep, I know you're on Facebook.
Yes, yes.
So Facebook and Instagram.
Instagram, Lisa Braxton Writes.
Okay.
That's Instagram.
Lisa, that's how to find you.
Yes.
And then they can also come and buy your books and meet you at Voices of the Valley in November as well.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you being here and coming all this way.
Well, thank you.
You had a long drive to get here, and I really appreciate
in
that.
Boston is never going to stop. It's never
Yeah,
going to end.
no,
So
it's
it is
not.
what it is, right?
No, but we learn to live with it, that's
Yes,
all.
yes.
That's all right. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening here to Rise, Heal, and Grow with Leah M. Hill. And I appreciate your joining us today, and stay tuned because we have lots more episodes coming up soon.